All right, what is going on? How y'all doing out there today on a Thursday, June 16th, 2022, in the middle of the Falcons' first mandatory camp this week. Got an opportunity to go out there this past Tuesday, but got rained out. Did not get a chance to see a whole bunch, but the guys coming out there stretching. Nice to see the next day people were able to go out and do their thing and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it was cool to go out there, see what was going on the field, see the guys out there stretching out, doing what they're gonna do, and just I was talking to my brother Smitty from Smitty Sports Machine on YouTube. And please make sure you go check him out. Also in 95, I'm going to get Alberto's moniker right so I can make sure it's 95 North, I believe it is. But I'm going to make sure I get that right before those two guys are into this really heavily. But just seeing the size of those wide receivers, you see it on paper, but to go up there and kind of get a look right up close, those are some big guys that they have this year. Vying for a position on wide receiver. We can't take, I think I saw 12 of them out there, and I think it's 14 on the roster, but I think I saw 12 of the guys out there in the receiver groups. They had different groups that were stretching out during that time. So that was kind of cool to see all of that going on. But that's pretty much what that was, and unfortunately the skies opened up and the storms came, and my son and I were kind of caught up where we had to go all the way back to if you've been up to Flowery Branch, you see where they have the parking for everybody and then have to go across the street. But that was another story in itself, but just good to get a chance to go up there and see what the guys are doing. Today's live that I came in on is because I received today through the mail my first NFL preview mag. I usually during the year, and if you guys have been watching me for the last couple of years, I usually do a couple of lives on what the outside media, especially outside of Atlanta, thinks about us. And Lindy's is one of the first ones. So I just got this in the mail today. So I thought I'd open it and go through the whole process with us just to kind of see what they think of our Atlanta Falcons. So I thought that would be fun to go through. RJ, what's going on, man? Good to see you out there. RJ is watching us on Atlanta Bird Gang on Facebook. Always appreciate the Atlanta Bird Gang folks joining us, but don't forget to check us out during Uncle Steve's Lounge, which is on YouTube. Very thankful for the audience that has grown. We just went over 700 last week, so appreciate the love that people are giving us, and just to see how everybody is making out. So appreciate you coming up. Eddie, I see you out there, brother. Good to see you. Appreciate you joining us today. So again, got the new magazine. So this is the national version. Now, what they usually do with these magazines, if you're familiar with getting these preview magazines, they usually have the regional versions that you have. But because I have a subscription to them, they sent this to me. So this is the Lindy's book, sports book, 2022 preview. The other ones will be coming out. I know Athlon usually has one coming out. Sports Illustrated, I have theirs later on in the year. I think Sports Illustrated actually doesn't do theirs until preseason. But these are their very first thoughts at the beginning of the year. So what I usually do when I grab these books, the very first thing I usually do is kind of just jump to where they have the page where they make their playoff assumptions. And again, I'm not here to try to swindle you into thinking Atlanta's going to make the Super Bowl, but I just always am interested to see what the national media or national writers, or in this case, this particular magazine, feels about the Atlanta Falcons' chances, and more importantly, what they think about other teams' chances. So, just trying to get to that preview, and give me a second, because again, as I said before, I'm opening this up for the first time. And while I do that, I see Rusty has joined us. What's up, Rusty? Said, not sure if you caught Arthur Smith's little press conference yesterday, but I believe he said something about among the lines of Desmond being light years ahead of other young quarterback as he has. Interesting statement. Again, that's not a big surprise, Rusty. I talked about this before. When you start talking about the ideal situation for the Atlanta Falcons, the ideal situation for the Atlanta Falcons would be for the Falcons to have Desmond Ridder as their starter. I'm going to tell you why. If you have Desmond Ridder as your starter going into the season, you get to see what you have with him. Mariota, make no mistake about it, was brought on here as a stopgap no matter what. They need to see if the third round pick that they kind of stole, or whatever you want to call it, is better than advertised. If he is, then as the Atlanta Falcons, you have a great situation, because you have a third round quarterback pick that financially you're going to be in good shape for the next couple of years, because you don't have to worry about paying that outrageous money that we've been paying the incumbent here. And you can kind of make plans to spend money around him instead of, trying to, think that Mariota is going to be the long-term answer. Mariota was brought in here to just be a stopgap. That's it. If Ridder doesn't work out and the Falcons happen to have an atrocious season, and to me, atrocious is 5 wins or less, guess what? We get right back in line, and we have a plethora, from what the experts say, a plethora of guys coming out in 2023 where you're able to make a decision on those guys. And you still have Desmond Ridder as a possible backup quarterback that still is learning. But I do like the statement. If I'm Mariota, I'm starting to worry, because I see a whole lot of talk about Ridder and not enough talk about Mariota being on this team. But of course, everyone loves the shiny new toy. Everyone likes the brand new car, as opposed to the car that's functional but's been around for a couple of years, got a few miles on it. Everyone loves the new car. The new car smell, the new car gadgets. And then I'm comparing Ridder to Mariota, if y'all don't know. So I think the organization secretly wants Ridder to win that job one way or the other, so they can say, what we see in this guy is cool for the future, or they can say, you know what, if we're going to end up being bad this year, at least we have another opportunity to get some other guys. Melvin, how you doing? Melvin is on YouTube, Uncle Steve's Lounge. How you doing, my brother? Good to have you in the house. Rusty also says, I agree. They secretly want Desmond to beat out Mariota, no doubt. That's just good. Not good sense, just a good financial sense. Of course you do. Think about how that Seattle team was built. And I'm not telling you Desmond is Russell Wilson. But if you think about what they were able to do with that young team in Seattle and built it around, built that defense up, were able to bring in Averill, were able to bring in, able to pay Michael Bennett. I mean, they were able to build that defense up to the point where they could wait on Russell Wilson to get better. That defense carried them through. So they were able to weather those 3 or 4 years with Russell where he wasn't getting paid. And then once Russell got paid, it was no different than what other people were thinking. High price quarterback, not going to be able to do it. Matter of fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know how much Tom Brady made that first year with Tampa Bay, but that might have been the first year that you had a $30 million quarterback win the Super Bowl. Could have been. RJ says Ritter is head coach Smith's guy. And again, of course he is. And I keep telling folks who want to go to that narrative that, well, Arthur Smith had him in Tennessee. Technically, when Arthur Smith got the OC job, that was with Tannehill. While Mariota and him, I'm sure, were familiar with each other and on the team, he was the tight ends coach when Mariota was mainly starting. So it's not like, they had this OC quarterback relationship. They had a coordinator, he's one of the guys on the team relationship. There's nothing that ties them together per se. All right, so let's go through real quick, and I'm trying to find the Atlanta Falcons preview. Here we go. Atlanta Falcons. So here's what I see right here. And that's the second page. And let's see what the first page says for the Atlanta Falcons. Let's see if they have on the hot seat for the Atlanta Falcons. They say it's going to be Richie Grant. And I'll read what they said about Richie. They say after starting in Central Florida, Richie was drafted in the second round. He struggled with some of the concepts, but got on the field as a nickelback for most of the season. The Falcons have deserved some credit for not rushing Grant onto the field, but he wasn't drafted to play nickelback and play on special teams. He'll have to step up and show that he understands the intricacies of the defense. And they're right. I mean, that's a second round pick in today's NFL. Second round, you're supposed to be starting. You're supposed to be on the field, and you're supposed to be starting on the team. So I agree with their assessment of that. I'm going to go into a couple of things that I have on here where they give the grades for, and I know we did that the other day with Tidy where he did positional grades. Again, this is Lindy's Pro Football book, and Tidy did a great job of going through and seeing what people's opinion was on the grades for the team. This is what Lindy says, the team at Lindy's. And they're going on a scale of 1 to 10. For coaching, they say Smith did a masterful job in Tennessee, playing to the strengths of Ryan Tannehill. Smith and his offensive coaches did a great job of unlocking the talents of Cordero Patterson. With a different style quarterback, the offense was shifted to a more run-centric offense and use Mariota's talents in the RPO game. Pease plan to blitz from everywhere. Blah, blah. So they say he gets a 7 rating. Arthur Smith gets a 7 rating. Rusty comes on. Rusty says, I would have said Debo is on the hot seat. Yeah, I would have too. I'm going to get to what they think about them in a second. Okay, from a quarterback standpoint, Mariota should be plenty fresh and healthy. He's only played 11 games over the past 2 seasons and has just thrown 30 passes. He knows, talking about Coach Smith, he knows how Mariota fits into the offense and will play to his strengths. Mariota has completed 62.8% of his passes and thrown for 13,437 yards, 77 touchdowns, 45 interceptions. Desmond Ridder was drafted in the 3rd round after a stellar career at Cincinnati. He'll get an opportunity if Mariota stumbles. Also, Felipe Franks is on the roster. The mere fact that they've mentioned Felipe Franks is kind of a joke. But they give the quarterback room a 6 out of 10, which is fair and probably higher than I've heard most. people talking about? They say the quarterback room is a 6. What do y'all think? This is again Lindy's definition. Going to the running backs, Patterson and Quadre Allison were re-signed in free agency by the Falcons, who finished 31st. I didn't realize we were that bad. I knew we were bad. 31st in the league in rushing. Team picked up Tyler Algier in the 5th round and veteran backup Damian Williams. They give their running back core a 6.5 out of 10. 6.5. That's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. Receivers with Pitts, Patterson, and rookie Drake London, who was selected in the 8th overall. Falcons have some big targets. Pitts caught 68 out of 110 targets, 1,026 yards. And they put the tight ends and the receivers all in one thing. Falcons also lost dependable Russell Gage. I mean, don't get me wrong. Russell Gage is fine, but let's dependable. Let's not act like he was all that. What's going on, my brother? Good afternoon to you too, man. Let's not act like he was all that. They give the receivers, which includes wide receivers and tight ends, they give them a 7. This will be the interesting one. The offensive line. Falcons are only set at left tackle with Jake Matthews and right guard Chris Lindstrom. Falcons have given up at least 40 sacks in the last 4 seasons, 31st in rushing last year. They weren't run blocking, not protecting the passer. Ooh, that's a lot of negativity. And overall, they give them a 6, which again is being very kind when you start talking about them. Defensive linemen. They didn't have a true nose tackle, but that didn't stop Pease from running a 3-4 base. Anthony Rush was added during the season, played well, retained. And Vincent Taylor was added. Somebody was talking about Vincent Taylor the other day. I don't know whether that was somebody in here or in the bird cage. That could have been Smitty on Smitty Sports Machine on YouTube talking about that. They didn't have a true nose tackle. They give the defensive lineman a 6.5. Linebackers, they say they added Lorenzo Carter in free agency, added 2 pass rushing outside linebackers. Talking about AK, talking about D'Angelo Malone. So then you got Rashad Evans, Michael Walker would get a chance to replace Foye Oluokun. I think Walker's going to have a good year, if you ask me. They give the overall rating on linebackers as a 7. And then in the secondary, left cornerback AJ Terrell had a breakout season in 2021. Starting right corner Fabian and starting strong safety Deron Harmon were let go. They added Casey Hayward and re-signed Isaiah Oliver and Eric Harris, which for a lot of people don't know what that was about. And they give their rating on secondary a 7. Special teams, Younghoe Koo, they give him a 6. And as far as intangibles, which is that extra little thought that whether they're going to be good or not, they say a -1. So they minus a point for the Falcons. So what do you think? That's what they say. They're thinking about them as a team. And I'm trying to get to the major point of the whole thing is where they think Atlanta's record is going to be. And I'm probably skipping that part. And I'm going to give this a drum roll. Okay. This is their little chart where they think people are going to end up for the year. Let me read it for you real quick and then we can discuss. NFC East, they think the Eagles are going to win the NFC East. Eagles, Cowboys, Washington, and Giants. They think it's going to be in that order. Eagles winning the East. The North, they are still picking Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago. In the NFC South, they picked Tampa Bay first, New Orleans second, Carolina third, and the Atlanta Falcons. They are saying that they are going to be and they are going to finish in last. So that's a thing. John Harris, what's going on, brother? Said they gave our official scores. Yeah, that's not the same thing. This is from a magazine. This is not. We're not talking about people's thing. This is from Lindsay. I know you just walking in here, but this was about from this magazine official scores, not about Atlanta Bird game official scores. This is the first preview magazine from the year. So that's what we're doing right now. It's not that. In the NFC West, they picked the Rams to win the division, Frisco, Arizona, and then Seattle. And AFC, okay, for the NFC, they say the wild card teams are going to be Dallas, San Francisco, and Arizona. So they're again picking 3 teams from the West to make it, even though 2 made it last year. They're saying Arizona. In the NFC Championship, they're saying Tampa Bay versus Los Angeles. For those of you interested in the AFC, Miami, New England, and the Jets. Not a surprise they picked Miami first. They got over. They made a lot of changes this year. AFC North, Cincinnati, they're picking to win the division. Baltimore, Cleveland, and then Pittsburgh, they're picking in last place. Not a shock. NFC South, they are actually picking Indianapolis Colts. No surprise with Matt Ryan there. Tennessee, Houston, and then Jacksonville. And then in the AFC West, they're picking Kansas City, Vegas, Chargers, and Denver. The wild cards they say are going to be Baltimore, Las Vegas, and Chargers. So they're saying 3 in the AFC West. And the AFC Championship, they're saying it's going to be Buffalo against Indianapolis. Super Bowl, they're saying Buffalo versus Tampa Bay, and Buffalo winning. And wouldn't that be a great story? Buffalo of the 4 straight Super Bowl losses going up against the greatest of all time in Tampa Bay, and they would end up beating them. So again, that's the first magazine of the year. I'll probably go over it again later on as the other magazines come in. But there's no big surprise. I think, listen, if you're coming off a year where you were, what, 7-10, right? Am I right? 7-10. So you're 7-10 this year, and you pretty much gave away your starting quarterback for the last 14 years. I think that it's not surprising that the consensus would think that the Falcons are not going to be successful this year. I don't think that's I'm going on a limb to say people aren't going to think we're going to be one of the top teams. But I tend to look at this differently. I look at this team as a team full of, if we start talking about the first thing that comes to mind, which is crazy to me, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Remember, you used to have the Island of the Misfit Toys, and you have this mishmash of folks that, when you start talking about my brother from the Giants who just came over from the University of Georgia, when you start thinking about Damian Williams, when you start thinking about Alden Tate and folks who are coming from other teams and they're trying to prove themselves. These 1-year contracts are not a fluke. These are things where you start talking about the prove it contracts. We did a lot of that last year too. The difference last year is we had the veteran quarterback. Well, now you're starting basically from scratch at the QB position. That's why I think you're going to hear a lot more favoritism of Ritter over Mariota, not because he may not be the better option, but at the end of the day, I think you want Ritter to win that job. You do. I know people are going to say, well, if he's not ready, you put Mariota out there. But if he is, let's just say he is ready. And if he's ready to roll, what reason? I never understood that. It was almost the same argument last year, I think, when people were talking about the pick of Kyle Pitts. Just because if you would have picked Justin Fields, there was no reason to think if Justin Fields comes out and he beats Matt Ryan in the preseason, then you put Justin Fields on the field. No pun intended. You put them on the field. Same thing with Mariota and Ritter. Mariota is not this all-time great. Mariota was the number 2 pick. He underachieved in Tennessee. Yes, he did. He underachieved. I'd almost argue. I know that Jameis was number 1 in Tampa, and Mariota is number 2. So you're always going to compare those two. Almost thinking about the trade Luka Doncic thing. They'll always be connected. Jameson, to be honest, probably has had the better career. Just had a hard time throwing those interceptions. But I just feel like if you have the straight up competition, which we're gonna have this year, as I said when I talked on Sunday, this is the first time we're gonna have significant competition in preseason at a major position, which is quarterback, because we're so used to Matt either being there or Matt being there and not playing in preseason, and we're worried about who's going to be the second string. Well, this year, your future is at hand. We're going to be watching those games this year. It's going to be a whole different way of looking at things coming into the year. Rusty says, no way Carolina finishes in front of us. Rule is 8 games away from being fired. And CMC is one hit away from working at Planet Fitness forever. Don't get me started on the Carolina wants Baker nonsense. Please sign Baker. That's an automatic 2 wins for us then. Carolina to me is very intriguing. Yeah, Chris McCaffrey, that's just, it's almost sad. You feel sad for him personally because, dude was balling a little bit. Those injuries are getting the best of him. Just like Saquon Barkley, you just want to see what they can do when they get on the field. Carolina's just one of those teams that, yeah, as a measuring stick against, I just don't see how you can put Carolina ahead of us. Is Sam Darnold one of those guys right now that you say would be better than either Mariota or Ritter? I don't know. I don't think I've seen anything from Darnold that tells me he's the next coming, because if he was, he'd still be in New York right now. But yeah, it's hard to poke holes. It's hard to poke holes in Carolina because we got plenty of holes ourselves. But I just don't see Carolina being that team. Listen, New Orleans, for what it's worth, I'm still not 100% sold on New Orleans being that team. We all remember Marcus Williams from the whiff during the NFC Championship team, but Marcus Williams leaves. That's a big hole at safety. And I know they ended up bringing in the Honey Badger. Is the Honey Badger really the right guy that they brought in there? I don't know. I know he's had success along the way on his trips, but is he that great at this point in his career? I don't know. He's still, listen, when you're that great, you're not waiting around for teams to sign him. That little period of time when they can start tampering, you already have a deal in the first 24 hours. So there was something keeping people away from Honey Badger being signed on the team. So I don't know. Boss Trucker says, I will say it, 12-5. Listen, man, look. In our division right now, Tampa Bay has a lot of folks that are, again, riding the Tom Brady wave. Tom Brady is going to be an intriguing story this year, folks. The mere fact that he not even thought about it, he quote unquote retired and then changed his mind. To me, that bothers me from a mental standpoint. To me, that's something about that I say, you know what? Maybe y'all need to bring that extra fire to Tom. Make him think about that retirement a little bit more this year. I'm not sure Tom Brady is still going to be that Tom Brady guy. So if you think about that, boss, the 12-5, I'm not going to make that prediction. I think high end, this team is 9 wins. Maybe they can slip 10. But I appreciate your optimism, because I would love if we could sneak 12-5. I just think the rest of the schedule is a little tough. The AFC North is not as, not as horrible as it seems. We play a Cleveland team that basically is not going to have a quarterback in my assumption, by the time they finish with the Deshaun Watson thing, we play a Pittsburgh team that really doesn't have a quarterback either. Kenny Pickett, they have as much of a quarterback as we have a quarterback, even though they do have a really good defense. But we're going to play that game at home. Who knows? That makes sense. Ryan, what's going on, brother? Good to see you, Ryan. Ryan, what time is the Birdcage coming on this week? Ryan Walker is the host of the Birdcage on Atlanta Bird Gang. He and Glenn Smalls, his partner in crime, usually come on and entertain us all, usually around 7 or 8 o'clock. I don't know if they're doing anything tonight with the NBA Finals being on, but I'm sure they're going to do something. But put it up there when you get a chance. John Harris says, my prediction is a solid 4-14, and we figured that because you can't count because it's only 17 games this year. So we'll see which way you're going to switch that other game there, sir. Boss says, LOL, I understand. Yeah, and again, boss, I am the forever pessimist when it comes to our Atlanta Falcons. And when I say pessimist, I'm probably a positive pessimist, where I want everything to roll the right way. Them winning 7 games last year, to be honest with you, was a little bit of a shock. I didn't think they would win that many games to a man. I was rooting for them to win every game, but the way they started the season with the horrible loss to Philadelphia and then the loss at Tampa Bay the next week, I thought we were in for one of those, this is going to be kind of a tough sledding for us this year. But we ended up, I don't know in what book you would call 7-10 respectable, but for a first-year coach, I'm still one of those people that think we're one of those teams that it could be a bounce here or there to win the game. You know what I'm saying? That Giants game last year, we're lucky. That Detroit game we won at home, we were lucky. So, things kind of go back and forth. John Harris says, we are a 10-point underdog in the breaks. I think we're going to lose that too. Okay. But, I just feel like I want optimism to be placed in the right area, and we should be behind this team. We have coaches. Look, Arthur Smith this year is probably more fired up because I don't care who you are. If you're a new coach coming in where the quarterback has been in place for a long time, it's tough to win the room. It's tough to win the room where Matt Ryan has been the focal figure for the last decade and a half. I don't care what they tell you your job as a coach. I don't care that you're the GM. The face of this franchise for the past decade and a half has been Matt Ryan. Yes, the Julio Jones and Roddy Whites and the Michael Turners and everyone else along the way has been there to help, and a lot of times exceeded the production of Matt Ryan, but Matt Ryan has been that face. So when Arthur Smith comes in, while he wants to implement his program and put stuff in place, it's hard because that guy is there. That's why I give Matt LaFleur a lot of credit, even though his playoff success, desires a lot more. To come into Green Bay, to come in there with Aaron Rodgers and produce the regular season success that he has, that's pretty good. Now, he's had a couple of really big scratch your heads moment, of course, going for the field goal instead of the touchdown a couple of years ago, and things of that nature. He'll learn. Hopefully he'll learn and make some better decisions along the way. But that's tough. Kyle Shanahan with Jimmy Garoppolo. Even though Jimmy Garoppolo helped take that team to the Super Bowl, that's not Kyle's guy. Kyle inherited him. So Kyle wants a certain type of quarterback to run his position. Is it not obvious to people? You see exactly the type of quarterback Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot went out and got this year. Is it obvious to you that they want a certain um, type of athleticism at that quarterback position, judging by the the three guys that are quarterback right now on your team? And I know Felipe is playing the slash position, but if you think about those guys right now and what they possess that our incumbent didn't, is a heck of a lot more of athleticism. And that's not a knock on Matt. Matt rode it as long as he could, but that's where Arthur Smith is trying to go. So I think, circling back around to the prediction that Boss made as far as the team is concerned. Listen, Boss, I would love to win 12 win, but again, I'm just going back to I'm sorry, keep flipping back. Just going back to this schedule, man. Schedule is tough. You look at that right there. Uh, let's go this way. You look at that schedule: New Orleans, Rams, Seattle, Cleveland, Tampa. Now, I just said that was a tough schedule, but I think you could sneak a couple of wins out of that. I think you could sneak. I think you could sneak New Orleans, Seattle, and Cleveland. Frisco comes here. Frisco is just a much better team than us. Go to Cincinnati. I think that's a loss. Then you look at Carolina. I think the Chargers are a really good team. I don't think we beat them. Carolina, I don't care where you play Carolina. I think we're a better team. Chicago is a flip. At Washington, it kind of depends on how that's going to work out with the quarterback situation. So then at New Orleans, have a bye. And then you can go 2-2 in those last couple of games. So again, optimism absolutely reigns when you start thinking about that. So it's no reason to think you can't do that. My brother, what's going on, Tidy? How you doing, sir? Say, how many years do you think Billionaire Blank would give Terry and Arthur to start back winning again? Well, I tell you what, the leash is going to be much shorter than Dimitrov had. I'll say that. With us cleaning the slate on the money, again, I think the button starts this year. I think we even talked about it a little bit last time. Last year was kind of that mulligan year for Coach Smith and Terry Fontenot because you inherited such a mess. But this year, you were able to get Matt Ryan out of the building, albeit probably for a little less than you wanted. So now the rebuild / restructuring starts this year for the Atlanta Falcons. Tidy, if we aren't successful by the end of 2024, if we're not a playoff team by 2024, I think you'll pull the plug. And it kind of depends on what moves Fontenot's make, because Fontenot is probably going to be judged by what happens next year. Because as we've all been told, not been told, but as we know, the salary cap for us is going to be very favorable next year. So we're going to get an opportunity to see what Terry does with that money. Just because you have money doesn't necessarily mean, you're going to automatically make the right decisions and the right teams. See Jacksonville. So I think, to answer your question, I think we're looking at the end of 2024. Because Arthur would have 2021, which again was a throwaway. This year, this begins it. This is the beginning. Next year, you bring in the pieces. And then in 2024, there should be some significant strides from what we see on the field from last year and whatever happens this year. See, the advantage that Mike Smith and Dan Quinn had is they kind of had things in place. If you think about what Dimitrov did that year, and I know we always argue about who was the best free agent signing in Falcons history, but bringing in Michael Turner the year that Matt got here, and having those pieces we brought in, I think there's Laurie Malloy and a couple of other defensive pieces that you had on that team, and surrounding Matt with veterans. It wasn't a lot of rookies on that 2018. We surrounded him with a lot of veterans, and we had some money to maneuver a little bit. I know Mike Vick thing kind of messed us up some, but we were able to surround him with some veterans on that team. Fast forward to when Mike Smith got fired, Dan Quinn. There was a base on that team. Remember, we rolled out to a 5-0 start. Still had a young Desmond Trufant and a young Robert Alford managing the corners, but you still had a basis. Devontae was taking over for that ill-fated Steven Jackson signing, and we were giving them an opportunity, but you still had a basis for that team coming into 2015. What Arthur and Terry got was garbage. What they got to start with was almost not fair to a man. They did not have a lot and couldn't go out and get anybody to come in. And even if you did have the money to come in, who would want to come into this situation? And I'm talking about before training camp, because again, at the draft, when you got Kyle Pitts, very first thing you see the next day, Kyle Pitts, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. What a trio. And only one is left. So yeah, I think 2024, Tidy. Rusty says, imagine what a win would do for us in the locker room if we went to LA and beat the Rams in week 2. Listen, you beat the Super Bowl champs, that would be awesome. I mean, and you put people on notice to say maybe Arthur Smith just really needed the personnel if you do that. So yeah, I think that would be great if you're able to come off the deck and be able to win right away. But that's I want people to understand, as a long, I don't want to sound negative to say long suffering Atlanta Falcon fan, but when you start thinking about really what this team is all about this year, and this is about coaching up the draft picks from 21 and 22, because there's a lot of youth on this team, a lot of youth. And Dean Pease and Arthur Smith's charge is to get these guys ready. And I guess that'd be Dave Ragone, but either way, Arthur Smith's running the offense. But their charge is to get these guys to believe that they can win. And that's going to be major. There's going to be a different energy, too, with the fans this year. Don't think it's not. First time you see 3rd and 3 and see a quarterback actually run for the first down, Mercedes-Benz is going to go wild. Not to say that Matt's never done that before, but it'd be a shock. But the first time we see that RPO run and a quarterback actually get the ball and it's actually a design play for him to run, this place is going to go wild. It's going to be a different energy in the building. And I still say, listen, you go out and you have the competition in preseason, and whoever looks better, you play them. You don't play the game of automatically just giving the job to Mariota and saying, here you go. No, you put the best team out there against the Saints. If Ritter is running things better, then you let Ritter get in there. And yeah, of course he's gonna make rookie mistakes. They all do. There has been no rookie that came into the NFL and lit everything on fire and marched right to the Super Bowl. There hasn't been one. And I'm not expecting Ritter to be that either. But if Ritter goes out there and he's the best option at quarterback, then you let him play. You have zero to lose. Again, I'll say the scenario again for those who might have jumped in a little late. It doesn't matter. It would make more sense for Ritter to win this job. Unless Mariota comes out here and just is amazing and get some Oregon flashbacks or something like that. And if he does, you let Mariota play. Now, if you let Mariota play and you end up with, let's say, about a 10th game, you have a 5-5 record, I think you still put Ritter in because you got to see what you have. This next year, according to critics and prognosticators, this is one of the best quarterback drafts coming in. And if you're at that kind of suspect point, 4-6, 5-5, and you see things might not be working in the direction you do, you put Ritter in and you see either one or two things is going to happen. Either Ritter will take the ball, run, and take us to another level, or you'll realize that you need to start over from scratch at the quarterback position. And then that's when you can start thinking about doing and being creative. When you start talking about, listen, we have a de facto gambler on the sideline suspended this year, and start thinking about his value next year. I still think Calvin Ridley will fetch a first round pick. What he did betting wise doesn't affect his athleticism. So you still should be able to get a number one pick from that. Who knows? If Ritter doesn't work out and you see that we're kind of stuck in neutral, you go out and package up a deal with Ridley and something and try to move up and get one of these five so-called great prospects coming out next year. And then have another competition. Let Ritter come in and compete again against whoever's coming in there. But from Mariota's standpoint, yeah, I get it. You got the veteran and you want to give him every opportunity to get the job done. But if Ritter's the better guy, you do that. Running back the same way. Everybody's already hugged. Put Cordell at running back and let him start. Not necessarily. I don't think it was their plan to have Cordell start. Obviously, their plan was to have Mike Davis get all of those yards. But Mike Davis was not very effective this year. And you got to start thinking about what running back gives you the better opportunity to chew up some yards. Is that Damian Williams? Is that Algiers? Is that Allison? And have a real competition there. Again, preseason is going to be much better this year. I truly think when you start looking at the position battles we're going to have. Listen, Drake London, if he's worth anything, he'll be one of the two receivers on the team. But you got a pretty good competition for that second guy. Safety, you need to get a safety. Is Eric Harris really that guy? I don't know. Who's going to be the other tight end in the formation for the Falcons? Who's going to be the slot receiver this year for us? Who's going to win out on the edge for us? Are we going to do the 3-4 and just let the linebackers rule today? Got a lot of questions to ask. That's why I figure this preseason is going to be very interesting. Rusty says, talent-wise, Calvin might be worth the first, but he has too much baggage with him at this point. I'd be lucky. No, Calvin Ridley is going to be a first. Calvin Ridley, at worst, will get a second-round pick. Because, listen, I think Stevie Wonder could see that whatever alleged problems was going on with Calvin Ridley, I think that was something inside. I don't think that was as. I think we might have played that a little bit, and who knows? Could have already been some stuff with the gambling that maybe they knew about. I don't know. I really don't. I don't want to speculate and throw stuff out there. But Calvin Ridley can still catch the ball and run with the ball. And remember, he's a year removed from being a second team All Pro. That baggage would be Deshaun Watson at this point. That's baggage. This right here with he's paying his price. He comes on next year. I mean, you talk about the difference between, you know, 20 something alleged encounters and $1,500 on DraftKings. I mean, that's I think you would agree that that's two different things. So I don't know. John says, seriously, I'm hoping that Smith can save face from last year. When you say save face, I mean, he came into a situation again. The face was already screwed up. You were 4-12. You're a 4-12 team on a sinking ship. That's what he inherited. He didn't inherit. I go back to the Matt LaFleur thing. Matt LaFleur inherited a pretty good team in Green Bay. It's not like he was going in and had to rebuild a lot of stuff. He was going in there to shake stuff up a little bit. And you talk about coaches that were going into different situations. I mean, save face on what? That you were for him to get 7 wins out of this past year's roster. I'm not saying he deserves a coach of the year thing, but not only that, to deal with the Calvin Ridley stuff, deal with the controversy of the Julio Jones stuff leading into camp. I mean, he had to earn his stripes early. He really did. So I disagree. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is already John. This is RJ. RJ says Marlon Davidson is on the hot seat. For me, he's on the burning seat. I was talking about that again with Smitty and Alberto on Smitty's sports machine. And yeah, aside of the little pick six that he fell into from Tom Brady, what has Marlon Davidson really done? And that's a second round pick. I say again, when you start talking about second round, the expectation level is pretty high. Marlon has to step up. He does. And I want to be careful because, and my son and I were having a conversation about this with the NBA. When you start talking about giving up on young players too quick, if you look at how Boston was formed, and you look at how Golden State was created, their franchises had to take a leap of faith to say we believe in the growth of these players and the maturity that when they get to that third or fourth year, this is going to be a great product. You start thinking about what the faith that you have to have in somebody like Draymond Green or Klay Thompson. Yeah, they all come out hype, but to blend together and finally get together and get that chemistry. Same thing with Boston. Boston had that early run when Kyrie got hurt, and then they fell back a step. A lot of people thought they were, when they took Cleveland to 7 games a couple of years ago, that they were on the way, but you had to have some patience. Same thing with the Hawks. We talking about giving away DeAndre Hunter, and I was like, dude, this is his third full year, fourth, whatever. Can't give up on guys. These guys are in their early 30s. Sometimes you gotta let chemistry build. And same thing with football. Marlon Davidson, I want him to be that guy. Everybody's not going to be Grady, be a fifth round pick and overachieve and make the most of his situation. Everybody doesn't run into that situation. There's something different, a different motor, a different thing inside of Grady. But as a second round pick, Marlon Davidson, you gotta bring your game. Gotta bring your game, bro. Boss on YouTube said, was it really that bad? I'm trying to think, really that bad. Tell me what you're talking about, Boss. And I apologize. I know I've been talking about a whole bunch of stuff on here. John Harris says, when I say this, I'm talking about not playing the starters until the season started. A move that I totally disagreed with. That set a tone to me that I think that he was not ready for prime time as a head coach. Again, I disagree. We talked about that the other day. I disagreed with his move for not playing the starters in preseason, but I also say you probably were doing a little bit of what you're doing with Cordero this year, with Cordero being on a different type of regimen and came out and balled like he did. With Matt Ryan, I'm sure if Matt wanted to get on that field, he would have got on the field. I think there might have been, again, we can speculate, but I truly think the Arthur Smith Matt Ryan relationship was not the greatest in the world. I'm sure it was professional. I'm sure they did, some things click. But you probably had a little bit of Kyle Matt in that situation. That might be why. That might be why Kyle bolted so quick for San Francisco. Because if you're the OC on there, and don't get me wrong, you're going to take an opportunity to be a head coach. I get that. But I mean, remember that 2015 year? That wasn't a great year because they were bumping heads. And Arthur Smith at this point this year, I'm sure there were some tough decisions. You saw the interaction with them on the field, and I know coaching quarterbacks sometimes will have that. But Arthur is the new guy, and Arthur Smith is saying, "Look, I got 3 years," as we were talking about with Tidy, how long the leash will be. When you're talking about, hey, I got 2 or 3 years, dude, I can't win with you. I can't win with you being a statue. I can't win with you being in the pocket for 5 seconds and not having the know-it-all to at least give me 4 yards and run out of bounds. Those are things that Arthur Smith has to say for his longevity he needs to do. So, yes. RJ said, I'm not judging Smith and Fontenot from this season here, not last season. Sorry. He said, I'm judging Smith and Fontenot from this. Yeah, and I agree with that. Their grade starts this year. Because the biggest obstacle, which was Matt Ryan, and not because Matt Ryan is this horrible entity that was on the team. But again, you can't put your fingerprint on the team until that guy is gone. And on this team, that guy was Matt Ryan. You could have survived the Julio loss. You could have. And I'm pretty sure if they knew Julio was not going to be there, shoot, you never know. Jamar Chase might have been the pick over Kyle Pitts. If they knew the drama that Julio was having was going to end up being this, we might have made a different choice at number 4. Who knows? But yeah, it's fair to start that grading this year. Last year, it was nothing they could do. You had a salary cap that was just like nothing. You had people starting in positions that last year they were playing special teams. I'm looking at you, Eric Harris. So you did not have a lot of choices. This year, as you're talking about, RJ, you have 2 drafts worth of young talent that you've amassed from 2021 and this year's draft in 2022. So now you get judged on your coaching because you picked these guys. You and Terry picked these guys. And last year, I said again, the Richie Grants, that even Jalen Mayfield, who they moved out of position before folks start saying you're crazy, Steve. But before you do that, you have to think about the position they were putting in. They put Jalen Mayfield there because there was nobody at guard. We didn't have anybody. Y'all remember the Jets fiasco where we grabbed two of their scrubs and tried to put them in position and it didn't work and spent money on that? Jalen was thrown into the fire. Now again, he's had an off season to learn, had an off season to build up, has an off season to mentally get into the thought of this is my position to lose as bad as I was. Maybe we create an animal. I don't know. Or maybe we get to the point where it can't get any worse than it was last year. So I don't know. Boss says, was it that bad? Talking about the previous team. Well, like I said, I mean, it's kind of a tough call because there were a lot of variables that were not in their hands, in Fontenot's hands and Arthur Smith's hands. There are a lot of things they couldn't control. And when you can't control the salary cap, if you can't control whatever animosity Julio had going into the season, when you can't control what's going on with Calvin Ridley's mental state, those are things you couldn't control and things you couldn't predict. When you got that Kyle Pitts pick in April, as much as I wanted a quarterback, I did start salivating at the thought of Kyle Pitts, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. I mean, that was something to think about, even with Mike Davis coming in, because you said to yourself, well, even if Mike can't run the ball, at least I'm going to have an awesome trio to choose from. I didn't realize at the end of the year I was going to have Russell Gage as my top receiver. I don't know. Tiny says, I will say that some of Terry and Arthur's draft picks from 2001 will have to step up this year. Kyle Pitts can't be the only bright spot of that draft. And again, that's why when RJ says the judging starts now, Tidy, that's what I'm saying. The judging of those draft picks have to start now. When you start looking at the guys from last year, when you start looking at Kyle, who's already starting, Richie Grant, Jalen Mayfield, when you start talking about those guys, you got to have that now. You got to have that stuff now. Those guys need to have grown from 1 year and come on in. Boss from YouTube says, what went wrong with Julio? I mean, whatever was going on with Julio was going on in the offseason. If you think about it, things were super, super quiet about Julio Jones. Things were super quiet and nobody knew what was going on again until the Shannon Sharp call. I think there were people that were wondering, but nobody really knew. But back to what you were saying, Tidy, as far as the, Kyle Pitts being the only bright spot. Yeah, I'm willing to give those guys from last year an opportunity to step up. My man from Notre Dame, I keep forgetting his name, the defensive end. He showed some promise last year. Now with the summer under your belt, especially the defensive guys, with a summer under your belt, what can you do to show us that you're going to be a valuable asset to the 2022 team and beyond? That's what we need. John Harris says, as well as Super Chicken told Fred that you knew the job was dangerous when you took it, they knew they had a pat hand when they took the job. They didn't know that they were dealing with Julio. They didn't know that they were going to deal with a mental problem with Ridley. They didn't know, what was I about to say? They probably didn't know their salary cap was. Well, I guess they probably knew about the salary cap, and I understand what you're saying. You're right. You do know certain aspects of the job. The salary cap thing you did know was going to be ugly coming into the game, but that's a stupid reason to cast them off in year one, and that's a dumb reason to try to say that they're not going to be successful next year. Again, Arthur Smith squeezed 7 wins out of a roster that was not very talented. I can say that pretty well. I can pretty much tell you that this was not a talented team, and for him to squeeze 7 wins out of that, I'm not satisfied, but I understand. So I'm not going to cast them out. I'm not going to do that. And they said that's why we said Bieniemy and others did not become the head coach. No, Bieniemy didn't come because it's something that Bieniemy is not doing. Bieniemy has gone into many interview rooms. I'm starting to think it's something personal with Bieniemy, and I hope it's not the domestic violence thing that they had on there. That didn't. And Bieniemy, I don't think would have done much better anyway. There's something about that situation that we don't know publicly, that man can't get a job. Something strange going on with that. Because and to be quite honest with you, aside of Kansas City, you really don't see this swarming of people like protesting for him not getting a job. I saw more people going for Steve Wilkes getting a job that he only had for 1 year. I saw more people. What's my man's name? Just got fired from Miami. I saw more people go to bat for him. So I disagree with that. RJ says, for the way they inherited this franchise, Fontenot and Smith did a decent job for what they had to work with last season. And again, I tend to believe that they're going to get this thing going in the right direction, albeit the leash will be short. The leash is going to be very short. I think it's going to be one of those situations where it's going to be 2024, in my opinion. But yeah, 2021, you can't take. John says, don't forget, last year's schedule was one of the easiest schedules in the league. But I don't give a damn how easy the schedule was. They got 7 wins. I don't care. I think you're blinded by this situation that you wanted their narrative to be Super Bowl last year. And you would be a fool going to Vegas spending all your money thinking that this particular team was going to go to the Super Bowl. And that doesn't make sense. And like I said, and maybe that's if you hype something way more. That's why I probably try to stay more even keel on that. Y'all take situations. Y'all hear the man say we not gonna tank, and no, you hear the man say we're gonna compete, and y'all think compete means 15 wins. That's not what that means. What he's saying is he's not gonna tank. And I think you have to, make some sense out of it now. Don't just throw your emotions in there. You're getting emotional. Tiny says there was a report that broke about Bieniemy not too long ago. It said him and Mahomes have not been getting along and painted a bad portrait of the situational play calling of Bieniemy in the playoff game where they lose the big lead versus the Bengals. Okay, well then that might make sense. That could make sense. Because other than that, it's really baffling to me that he had not gotten the opportunity, Tiny. I thought maybe 3 years ago, coming off of the Super Bowl, he would have been the hottest name in there. Now, again, I know we're in a culture or an environment now where people, the cancels things, and I'm not getting into all that, but I know people go way back into your past and judge you on one thing, and I'm not one of those guys, but I just think it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I did not realize that. What's up, Mike? How you doing, my friend? Good to see you out there in the Atlanta Bird gang. And like I said, thank y'all for your cross support over into Uncle Steve's Lounge. Appreciate that. Just hit 700 uh, followers. So y'all keep spreading the word and pushing that very free subscribe button so a brother can get monetized, man. Hey, as Mike will tell you, uh, postal service don't pay you that much, so we gotta get some extra money in here. RJ says last season was the evaluating season for the players who was on the team, and RJ, most fans would most most knowledgeable football fans would realize what last year was. Last year was a transitional year, but I'm telling you, they can change out every position on the team. But if the incumbent quarterback is still there, I'm sitting here trying to tell you that it the thought for the people on the outside is still going to be, well, Matt Ryan's there, so they must think they can build around him. That's why last year would have been the perfect opportunity to get one of those quarterbacks last year. Then we could be a little bit more into the rebuild than we are now. Right now, we got with Matt Ryan with Matt Ryan going to the Colts. Now we've made that drop to, I don't want to say rock bottom, but we made that drop to, okay, now we start over. And who knows? Some reclamation projects can be built overnight. Some of them can take a while. I think being on that pessimistic side, I would rather have jumped the gun and made a move early, meaning 2021, so at least you can have a foundation to start with in 2022. Now, the way things are, we have an extremely young team coming in this year with a couple little bit better talent that you brought in this year. A little better, not great, but a little better. And then if you had that quarterback last year, you could have started building that building a little bit sturdier, that get your levels, get you build up. With what we did with Matt Ryan this year, we kind of chopped it off and started all over. Mike said you got that right. I know. Oh man. Yeah. So when you start talking about the Falcons and what this year is going to be, and thinking about what magazines think about us, and again, for those of you just coming in, this is the first magazine that I received this year, the Lindy's Sports. Take a look at it if y'all get a chance, and see, they picked the Atlanta Falcons to be last in the NFC South. It's kind of funny. I was looking for a record prediction, but they don't have one. But they pick us to be last in the NFC South, which is slightly embarrassing, seeing as how the Carolina Panthers are in there as well. My brother Coach, what's going on, Dre? Dre is in the house. Say, I look at it like this. I would love to win every game, yes, but if we only win 2 games, they better be against New Orleans. Now, listen, I can agree with that sentiment. If y'all think about it, and for your New Orleans counterparts that come at y'all make sure y'all remind them that the Mad Hatter is not calling the plays anymore. I don't care what anybody say. This particular loss of Sean Payton is bigger than Drew Brees. When Jameis was balling out them first, Sean Payton still was calling the shots. So New Orleans, the whole, they're about to change. They're about to change. And what better chance to catch them on the way down as we're at the bottom trying to get back up. That first game is going to be super important for the psyche of the Atlanta Falcons fan going forward. Because if we lose that game going forward at home against New Orleans, the whew, the Mercedes-Benz, which is already not been the biggest crowd I saw last year, I think was the opening game. And that was only about 70% full. And out of the 70%, 40% of them were Eagles fans. But this is your opportunity to really start this thing off right. So you're right, Trey. John says, so everything being said, we wasted a year in the rebuild process. I'm thinking they realized this and went all out to get Watson. Now, that I can agree with. I think when they didn't get Justin Fields or I guess at that time, Matt Jones, I'm not even sure if Matt Jones was on their radar. I think there was a thought that, you know what, in order for us to speed the rebuild up or speed the process up, let's go after Deshaun Watson. Now, of course, in retrospect, I'm kind of glad we didn't because we're going to not, deal with all that mess. So, yeah, I agree with that. Jaqual, my brother, how you doing? Say, I think we exceed expectations without overachieving. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that too. Listen, if we win 8 games with a new quarterback, one way or the other, Mariota or Ritter, with a new quarterback, if we win 7 or 8 games, it's a start. It's a start. And it would be a good start. Because guess what would happen? If Ritter messes around and wins 7 games and looks good doing it, and you're going into a free agent year where people are saying it won't be the same. From 2018 to 2021, veterans were going over there to say, Matt Ryan, Matt Ryan's on the way down, right? Do I want to end my career there? Or do you say, I see the new young pup in Ritter that's over there, and they got some good pieces. You know what? I might take a chance to go over there with the Falcons. They look like they might be building something. Which would you do? Excuse me. Preston says, I don't see us being last. Neither do I. Neither do I. Cam Lewis says the OG triple. What's going on, my friend? How you doing, man? Preston also says, I don't see us being last in our division. The only problem is we have the Bucks and Tom Brady. You know what, Preston? I had a little bit of a dialogue about that earlier. I'm never going to underestimate Tom Brady, obviously, after what he's done to our franchise over the years. But there's something telling me, and work with me when I'm saying this, everybody. When he committed to retiring early and then flip-flop back into coming back, there's something to me about that says, is Tom Brady a hit away from leaving? Is Tom Brady mentally, because he said it, look, he's 44, man. You're thinking about family. You're thinking about them boys. You're thinking about raising your kids at that time. From a mentality standpoint, listen, and don't get me wrong, you're right, Preston. They're the best team in the division. But I don't know if I'm going to be as scared of them as I was the last couple of years. Because I don't know if Brady's playing with 100%. I think he's got one foot out the door. Matter of fact, he might finish out this year and then really leave. And think about how the news came out about him leaving first, not him. And I think maybe there was part of that he didn't like. Maybe he told somebody in confidence, and whoever that was confidently leaked out his information, and he didn't like that. So maybe he wants to do this all on his terms. So by game 12, he's going to tell everybody, "Hey, I'm leaving. This is the give me my flowers now," and all this stuff. He didn't get a chance to do that before. Brother Cam says, "What's your prediction for the team this season based on what we have now at this particular point, with us not making a final roster decision on folks and not knowing what the quarterback is?" I'm gonna roughly say 7-10, 8-9, until I see anything in those preseason games that gives me a glimpse that we're going to be above 500. I think I'm setting my expectations. I'm not saying I'm not hoping for 17-0. What I'm saying is I'm setting my expectations to say, with a young team, with a change at quarterback, I don't care how good you are, there's going to be some growing pains. But I still see this schedule not as daunting as people are trying to make it. I think I see this schedule truly being somewhere where you could sneak 7 or 8 wins out of it. So Cam says, "Peace and blessings, Bird Gang. Good to see you, brother Cam." Maurice says, "The theme for the team in upcoming season should be trending up." Now, I agree with that. And a lot of this is going to have to do with your quarterback position. What these guys do when they finally get the reins. There is going to be a new quarterback at Atlanta in 2022. We fans have not even thought about that. Matter of fact, in franchise history, fans have not waited this long to have someone come here. Someone new come in and be a different person. No position has anybody been in 14 years and been able to take over. So I think this is going to be a good thing for the Falcons, to me. Dre says, "I know it's OTAs and minicamp, and it means nothing, but I do like the way our new rookie quarterback was looking." And again, unfortunately, Dre, my son and I went out there Tuesday, and the skies opened up, so we didn't get a chance to stay around. It was supposed to be practice that they let us see from 12 to 2, but when the rain started, that delayed about an hour, and I had to go. I wish I would have been able to stay. But yeah, I heard some good things coming out of the practice that they had that particular day. And listen, I know you're coming in a little late, Dre. I'm telling people, I think the organization secretly wants Ritter to win this job. Mariota has got to be looking at the social media. He's got to be looking at the folks talking about Ritter, and he knows he's battling against the upstart. He's battling against the guy that was picked in the 3rd round, the guy that was upset that he was picked that late, the guy who has everything to prove, that has the backstory that I need validation for this. I want people to believe that, no, I am the guy. I can do this. And that's going to be an interesting thing. Does Mariota use that and say, "Okay, y'all already want the cat to win. Man, give me a shot." And I don't know what's going on in Mariota's head, but Mariota, to me, his mindset should be the same as Desmond Ritter. The mindset that he has is, nobody believes in me. I'm 2 years removed from the team that drafted me number 2 overall. This will be my 3rd team. Probably realistically, I'm not going to get another chance, realistically, unless somebody gets hurt, to start. So he's going all out. It's not like Mariota's 30. Or is he? He might be 30. Or right at it. But this is going to be a tough one. My brother says he thinks they're going to be 10-7, which makes a lot of sense if the ball gets your way, and say Mariota trying to win. Yeah, and think about it, folks. This is a 2-year contract Mariota signed. it's not like he signed a contract for 4 years, $70 million. Mariota signed backup quarterback money. 2 years, $20 million. And really, this year is so incentive laden. If he doesn't play, he doesn't get that much money. I think it's only $3 million. And then he has a lot of incentives that could get him higher. But I mean, that's yeah. My brother Daniel, what's going on? Say, I see this as Alex Smith and Pat Mahomes situation. Yes and no. The difference being, I think it was clear, and Andy Reid made it clear the year that Alex Smith took them to the playoffs and Mahomes started the last game of the year. It wasn't a competition going into the season. Alex Smith, with Andy Reid's blessing, was the quarterback. The difference in that situation was Mahomes got that opportunity at the end of the year to show that, excuse me, that he was going to be the man. And this situation, look, you got 3 games basically. I'm sure training camp gets in there, but when the real bullets start, when they play Jacksonville, the first game of preseason, that to me is what makes it different. I don't think when Mahomes was going up against Alex Smith that particular year, I don't think they went into camp as a training camp battle. That's much different. I get where you're trying to go, but I don't think that was the same. Philip, what's going on, brother? Rise up to you. Rise up. Ty said 28. Thank you, brother. 28 years old, and I see Daniel coming in too. 28. Thank y'all. So Mariota is not over the hill. And matter of fact, this is really starting to be where you should be in your prime. Starting to be where you're turning the corner as a seasoned quarterback. But he hasn't had that opportunity because he was jettisoned from his team a couple of years ago. And in Vegas, you weren't up. If you can't unseat Derek Carr, I'm not saying Derek Carr is a scrub by any means, but you were brought in to be a backup to Derek Carr. You weren't brought in there for competition. So, I don't know. Rusty said they restructured the second year of his contract so they can get out of it. Right. They knew exactly what they were doing when they drafted Ritter. But here's the thing, Rusty. Whether it was Ritter, whether it was Malik Willis, whether it was Kenny Pickett, whoever it was, yeah, next year, if they release Mariota, it's not going to cost them anything. It's not going to be a bump against the salary cap. That's why this year is so important. That's why I tell people they want secretly for Ritter to win this job. Ritter, who I think hasn't signed his contract yet, if I'm not mistaken, he's probably waiting for Kenny Pickett because I think Kenny Pickett hasn't signed his rookie deal as well. So Ritter is not going to cost you much for the next 4 years. For those of you who remember, again, that was the thing, the Russell Wilson, Matt Flynn thing, when Matt Flynn was signed from Green Bay to come to Seattle. And obviously for that money back then, that was big money back when they did that deal. And Russell Wilson comes in with a 3rd round salary and leads that team for the next couple of years. I think the Falcons secretly want that to happen. They would love to be able to say, hey, thank Marcus. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the tutelage. Appreciate you holding it down. Now we'll go out and get a scrub to do this second string position and ride our rookie quarterback. I think that's their game plan. Philip said, if this new defense stands up, we'll steal a few games, leaving us at 10 wins or more. I hope so. I think the defense is going to be better. I like some of the young moves they're making on the offensive line. Listen, this Troy Anderson thing, I want him to be this quote-unquote monster that people are going to be. I saw somewhere, and I don't know whether that was on a post or somebody tried to compare him to Michael Parsons, and I say, "Whoa, slow down, slow down." The comparison game is so easy. That's like, slow down now. Michael Parsons did a whole bunch of stuff, boy. Because if we could get Michael Parsons type action out of him, that would be great. But I'm just like, slow up, slow down for a minute. Daniel says, I'd rather have Mariota over uh, beat, beat up. Wow. Okay. I wish I knew as soon as we traded Matt that Mariota would sign with us basically as we predicted. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And you knew you were going to get him for that money. So that was kind of cool. Daniel says, Evans at minicamp leading the linebacker core. I did see that when he was at practice. I don't know if you were out there Tuesday or not, Daniel. Yeah, when they had them out doing their stuff before the rains came and I had to leave. But yeah. Andre says, really? After letting Big O go as the defense guy in here, that hurt me. Who are you talking about? I'm trying to think who you talking about. Who you talking about? I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind, Drake. Come tell me who you talking about. Rusty says Michael Parson, LOL. Hopefully, but yeah, let's pump the brakes slightly. And when you start talking about hype, I'm telling people this. Do me a favor, y'all. Do me a favor. I love AJ Terrell. I was one of the first people. If y'all remember, and I think Dre, you were with me that night on draft night. When they drafted him, I was like, what? What are they doing? Who? What? And AJ has done nothing but be arguably the best player in the last 2 years on this team. That being said, when I keep hearing this, Terrell Allen and all of that, I'm kind of like, ooh, slow down, y'all. Let them do it 2 years in a row. I'm not saying it was a fluke last year because he actually showed signs his rookie year that he was going to be really good. But slow down. Slow down. Let's get this second year out of the way. And from AJ's point, let's catch some interceptions. I know they don't throw the ball a whole lot. He did make a couple of them, but I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more. Daniel says, with our grades on defense, we should be solid on D. Yeah, we should be. I would hope we are. And Steve, you knew my take on AJ when we drafted him. All I'm gonna say is I told you so. And listen, I remember a lot of folks that particular night that jumped on me hard because they were like, man, he's good, man. Don't take that, don't take that LSU game and think that was how it's gonna be, man. I'm trying to tell you, AJ's gonna be all right. And congratulations. More people were right than I was. That happens to be a lot. But I just say, look, let's get 2 years in a row out of AJ, and then I'm ready to start putting up memes and whatever. Because we do that a lot with folks sometimes. They'll have one. I harken back only 5 years ago, or 6 years ago now, right? I harken back 6 years ago to a guy named Beasley who came out and got 15 and a half sacks and led the league in sacks. And a lot of us were ready to make him the next John Abraham. A lot of us were ready to make him the next Von Miller. A lot of us were ready to talk about how he was going to be the next great defensive end in the game. Do it a couple of years in a row. I'm one of those people that I need to see a couple of years. When I see a couple of years in a row, then I'm ready. Then I'm ready to do that. Rusty says AJ is what Trufant was supposed to be. Yeah, and that's a good point. Because I still say to this day, people disagree with me. We drafted Trufant first and Alfred second. The time both of them were here, Alfred was more consistent to me than Trufant. Alfred was handsy. He couldn't keep his hands off folks. But as far as from a consistency standpoint, Alfred was much better to me. Daniel says, I told everyone he was a stud game one. One game doesn't define a player. Yeah, but you know what I and a lot of people were probably guilty of? The last thing you saw. And the last thing you saw was him following behind Justin Jefferson and the rest of the guys all night. So, I mean, yeah, guilty as charged, but, that was the last thing we saw. RJ says, I'm excited to see D'Angelo Malone and what he brings to the team. Yeah, a lot of people are really hyped over him, and I get that. That makes sense. That makes sense. A lot of sense. Dre says, what I was saying was letting Big O go to me get hurt me as much as Spoon. Yeah. He was the backbone, and I know we couldn't pay him. But dang, man, I wish we could. And I'm trying to think who was talking about that other day, Dre. I think I was comparing his situation to Devondre Campbell. And remember, Campbell that was his last year, but that was also the off season where Julio played with us the summer before about I'll need some more money. And then that summer was like, okay, y'all pay me or we're going to have some problems. And Devondre was due a contract that year. And he led the team in tackles. And I look back and I see what he's grown into for those people who don't believe in growth. And now was he first team All Pro or second team All Pro? One of the two. And dude has been good in Atlanta, good in Arizona, and even better in Green Bay because they let him develop. Oluokun, go back to his situation, led the NFL in tackles. And ideally, you would have wanted him to stay. I wish it was 2022 going into 23 because that would be somebody with that extra money we got coming up that I would have made a move for. But yeah, $15 million is just way too much. But yeah, that hurt Dre. But at the same time, I get it from a business standpoint. You couldn't pay him that money. I definitely miss Big O. Let's go here. Daniel says Beasley's heart wasn't in the game. He was a one-trick pony, speed off the edge. Yeah, but here's the problem. In 2017, we weren't saying that. And in 2018, we weren't saying that. We were talking about the 1 year. That's what I was talking about. AJ Terrell, you talk about let's string a couple of years together. I need to see a couple of years. We're on a franchise, folks, that we usually don't have a lot of folks that play on a high level consistently. Julio played on a high level consistently. That's one thing you can kind of say about him. Very few players play in that particular with that kind of consistency. That's what I was really kind of trying to say. But everybody thought there was not a person going into 2017 that thought Vic Beasley was going to be a bust. That's why I always try to correct people when you start talking about, yeah, but were you saying that in 2017? Keep it real. And we know he had the shoulder surgery. And for those of you who saw my last live, I went to the tape where I thought the injury happened, which was that Rams game in 2016 when he did the strip sack, fumble recovery touchdown, and he tried to jump up and slam the ball, and you saw him pull his shoulder down. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he got another sack that year. But yeah, I mean, he also had some other stuff on his mind, just like the young man from Indianapolis that's going into ministry. I have zero problem with anybody making life decisions like that. And I'm listen, bust to me is you didn't give me anything. Pip Gleason led the league in sacks. You want to talk about bust? Jadeveon Clowney, #1 overall pick, has yet to have a double-digit sack year. And matter of fact, prior to the beginning of last year, Beasley actually had more sacks than him. So, injuries and all that, I get it. But yeah, RJ said he's my favorite draft pick from this class. Talking about Malone. Daniel says AJ versus Chase rematch this year. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. My brother Dave is on Uncle Steve's Lounge on Facebook. How you doing, brother? Say, I'm somewhat surprised how many fans are just dismissing Ritter. I don't think people are dismissing him. I think the fans are more Ben Ritter than Mariota. I don't know. I don't know what you've been watching. I see more Ritter love than I see Mariota love. My brother Ray, what's going on, man? Ray says 3 a.m. in the morning in South Korea, and I'm watching Uncle Steve's Lounge. Brother, I always appreciate you, Ray. Thank you so much, man. And brother, again, stay safe over there, doing what you're doing. I know you getting ready to get out there and do some stuff later on, brother. But thank you so much for always supporting a brother, and thank you for always being around into the group, man. We always love having you. Here in whether it be Atlanta Bird Gang or Uncle Steve's Lounge. Thank you, my friend. Always appreciate you. Rusty says Alua Khan was good, but not that impactful. He could be replaced. He wasn't doing anything spectacular. He was tackling folks, man. Alua Khan was the best linebacker we had. I'm not saying Alua Khan had an all-pro season. Look, some of y'all want everybody to be Aaron Donald or Von Miller. Everybody can't be that. Alua Khan was the most solid linebacker we had on the team. I disagree with you. And it was impactful a couple of years ago. Do you realize that guy was drafted like in the 6th round? Was he 6th round? Yeah, I disagree with you on that, Russ. I disagree with you on that one. I disagree with you. Daniel says Tack has to be the biggest bust to me. I mean, in the recent 5 years, maybe. I mean, I start looking at bust. I start thinking about, Tack was a #1 pick, so you got to think about that. I start thinking about people like Parade Jerry, Jamal Anderson. What's my man name? Dude, we have now, McGarry. I start thinking about people like that I say are bust. But yeah, I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I'm saying that, and I see some of these responses. I promise I'm not even looking at the comments. I say it was Jamal Anderson. That's one. I think Big Ray says Parade Jerry. Yeah, same thing. Same thing. Man, don't worry about spelling, bro. I can't spell worth a darn. We get you. Well, we know what you were talking about. Parade Jerry too. Yeah, because he was top 10, right? Wasn't he top 10? I could be wrong, but yeah. Daniel says McGarry is a guard. Not top. I don't care what he is. He's still a bust. And he, whatever he is, he's not worth the number one pick. We traded up into the number one position. I mean, not number one. We traded up into the first round. Honestly, at this point, uh, and we sounds like we probably could have got him a little later, but guard, tackle, water boy, I don't care what he is, he's a bust. Because if you're a number one pick, you're supposed to make an impact immediately, not. They said Parade Jerry blew out his knee. Not the first year. Parade played a little bit. And I understand if he did blow out his knee, but he still, I still need a little bit more out of him. Number one pick. And somebody remind me, what pick was he? Was he top 10? Or was he middle teens on this thing? I know y'all watching. Don't make me look it up. Let me see. Real quick. Ray Jerry, football. He was a, let me see. Trying to see who is. All right, major knee surgery in 2009. Caused him to miss 2009. Came back, played all 16 games. Yeah, so okay, so I take that back. So he was hurt his first year. You're right, but again, it's not like he didn't play the next 4 years. And next 4 years combined, next 4 years, the next year he had 2 sacks. I know he's defensive tackle. I get it. 2013 he had 3 sacks. Yeah, still bust category for me. Sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry. Tidy says, I think Tack was more of a disappointment than a bust. He was drafted almost in the second round. He was absolutely terrible, but didn't live up to his own hype. And that's one of those things, Tidy, that I was sitting there talking about when you start talking about overhyping folks. He came out there with his picture of his grandma cussing on TV. And the first thing I heard out of everybody's mouth, look at the dog in him. Look at the intensity in him. Look at the this in him. And I'm saying, y'all, look, y'all, have y'all been Falcon fans long? Dude, I'm tired of that. We saw the intensity from one moment on stage, and people were ready to act like this was Ray Lewis. I seen the same thing from Marlon Davidson. I'm looking at you in 2002, Frank Darby. I'm tired of hearing things. I want to see it on the field. And you get those folks that just over. Yeah, I'm hyped. That hype stuff doesn't give me nothing. And I know he was emotional and all of that, and then he was very talky in camp and stuff that year. That's probably, again, Tidy, what he was guilty of. Just guilty of not living up to a little bit of hype. And remember, we traded up. That was another one where we moved up in the first round to go get him, right? If I'm not mistaken. Daniel says, pretty sure McGarry has the shortest arms as a starting tackle in the league, but I still don't think that's whether he has the shortest hands in the league or not. Foolishly, Thomas Dimitrov thought he was good enough to jump into the first round to get him. So again, whether he was wrongly picked or not, he lands in that bust category more than anybody else would think. Dave says, I don't know too many guards in the NFL at 6'7", right? Paul Star says third round. Third round for what? Tell me what you're talking about, bro. I know I've been talking all over the place. Daniel says Jerry was no, who is this? That's Dre. Thanks, Dre. First round 24 pick. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. Thank you, Dave. appreciate it. In '09, right? Rusty says, I keep telling all of you the only thing Tat promised his grandma was that he was going to go D1 and make it to the NFL. He never promised us he was going to sack the quarterback when he got here. But Tat had 9.5 sacks one year. It's not like, again, maybe a level below Vic Beasley. It's not like Tat didn't have a good year. He had one good year. I think that, obviously the hype was he was, going to be the bookend for Vic, and we were going to have us a nice young tandem on the edges, but that didn't end up working out right. But yeah, it's not like he didn't sack anybody. He was okay. He was okay. He just just never should have. If they would have waited, I think Tat McKinley would have been in the second round. I'm not sure anybody would have got him in the first round. I'm really not sure. That's why I think about the McGarry thing. I'm not sure if that's true. Daniel says we are terrible at picking bad UCLA players. Right. Oh man. My brother Sean, what's going on, brother? Sean says you can't earn a second contract. You're a bust. Wow. Now, I'll take it this level, Sean. If you're a first round pick and you don't have your second contract, you're a bust. I think it's I think that's a very fair statement. At least Beasley did get a 1 year. That was kind of a big contract Tennessee gave him, right? They gave him a big contract. Daniel says, Tat said, quote, to get to the damn quarterback. And again, here y'all go. Making me go. Excuse me. Sorry, y'all. Tat McKinley. Let's look it up. Tat McKinley, 2017, 6 sacks. 2018, 7 sacks. I'm going to stop right there because the Atlanta Falcons, 6 and 7 sacks is probably like, because we haven't had anybody have sacks over the last few years. And so, of course, the last 2 years he was garbage, and I think he kind of fell out of favor in that last year. So, yeah, he wasn't great, but he wasn't non-existent either. You can't have 6 and 7 sacks in 2 years and 13 sacks in 2 years and not say he was nothing. Andre says, go to Hawaii and get nothing but them Samoans on our defensive line. You sound like John Harris talking about y'all. Oh, man. Yeah, y'all go, hey, don't get fooled. Don't get fooled. Daniel says, if you are a first-round pick and the team doesn't pick up your fifth-round option, you are a bust. That's fair. That's fair. And, going back to when we were talking about Aluakon and talking about Campbell, when you start thinking about those were guys that were picked, obviously, not in the first round where you get the guaranteed money and you get the fifth-year option. That's what we lost Campbell. We lost Aluakon. Looking back, wish we could have been able to get them. Tiny says, do we really think Terry and Arthur are hedging their bets in a legacy on a third-round pick at quarterback? Or are we picking top 5 and 10 again? Do we draft the quarterback in the first round? Personally, I hope Ritter is spectacular, and I don't think he will have personally, I don't think he will have a very long leash as a third-round pick. So I don't know if you listen, that you come in a little bit later, tight end. That's kind of what I was saying. I think when you say hedging your bets, I don't think they're hedging the legacy. I think, let me put it in this term. You're playing with house money because You got Ritter at a third round pick. If Mariota nor Ritter works out as your starting quarterback, the chances of us being 3-14 to 6-11 are greater. And with the plethora of quarterbacks coming into the draft in 2023, your chances go up of being able to get one of those guys. Everybody's not going to need a quarterback next year. So when you say hedging your bets, I don't think they are saying this is the guy who's going to lead us into the next generation. You haven't heard that. You've heard this is the guy that's going to compete for the job. Now, what they're hoping is dust off some, and kind of mold and whatever and chip away and turn that coal into a diamond. That's what they're hoping. Now, if that happens, then you look like geniuses. But if it doesn't happen, there's always 2023 to and maybe we're saying the same thing, Tidy. I could be off, but I'm just saying that I think from that standpoint, that's what I think the scenario is. That I think you're saying. I think we might be saying the same thing. Which in that case, I wasted a lot of words. My bad. Daniel says, remember Paul Solia? Oh yeah, picked up on dude. We can go through free agents that he picked up. Dontari Poe is another. Dontari Poe gave us one good year though. He gave us one good year. I give Dontari Poe that. He gave us one good year. Dontari Poe wasn't brought in here long term either. I think he's brought in one. You think he just brought in 1 year? I don't think he had a bad year that year. Tidy says that's why I say Tat wasn't absolutely terrible, just a big disappointment. Same here. Sean says, agreed. My exact point. I would say my exact thought. I'm driving, so I keep it short. Yeah, man. Don't we driving and talk about, man, I'm talking to Steve. And no, I don't need that on my conscience, Sean. Get you some get you Apple Play, man. And hey, you better stay safe on that road. Talking about Tack, he had high quarterback pressure rates too. Yeah. Daniel says they took Ritter in the third, low risk, high reward pick. And again, that's what makes this up. He wasn't even a second round pick, y'all. He was a third round pick. So you don't look. There is nobody that's gonna come up to Terry Fontenot and say, "Man, you wasted that third round pick." Who says waste third round pick? First round pick, maybe. Second round pick, maybe. Not even maybe for first round. First round pick, yes. But nobody goes back and talks about the great third round picks we lost. No, scratch. The great third round picks who were bust. Nobody says that. So again, you're taking a good chance. Andre says, this is exactly what I said during the draft, if you remember, Tidy. I think we got both quarterbacks to tide us over to either next year or hold for 2 years to make a play for Arch. And yes, I know that's wishful if you think every team who is looking for a quarterback not keeping him in your mind. Well, Arch is more than a couple of years away. So I'm not thinking the Falcons are thinking 5 years down the line. Yeah, if you're waiting for Arch, you might be fired by the time Arch is available. Because Arch is, he plays college next year. So he would have to do 2 years? Nah. But I get your meaning in the quarterbacks kind of competing and then maybe next year being able to get them. But Daniel says Ritter is the first quarterback selected from a quarterback standpoint by the Falcons since Sean Ridley. Yeah, out of Duke. Yeah, and you think about that. That's a long time. Absolutely. Toddy says, yeah, we are saying the same thing. I don't think Ritter would get the same time frame to develop as a first rounder would if we only win a handful of games, then expect a quarterback in the first round next year. Yeah, and yeah, I kind of thought that's what you were saying, but it seemed like that last part was, you know. Daniel says it would have been different if they selected Malik Willis where we drafted Drake. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Well, we draft any quarterback in the first round, I think that we would be talking different. We would be saying, "Oh, Ritter better win the job over Mariota." That we would be saying. Dre says it's 3 years away. Yeah, is it 3? Because Arch is going. Just what his first college year would be what 23, right? 23, 24. That'd be 25, right? I don't know. I know what I do know. It is 2:30 and I'm late. Let me get my butt up out of here, man. I stayed on way too long than I thought, but I appreciate the love and appreciate talking about it again. If you go back and look, I was talking about the first NFL preview magazine that we got this year, and they have the Falcons finishing last in the NFC South. So take that for what it is. Hopefully, we'll prove them wrong and do a lot better than that. I think we will personally. Hopefully, we'll catch you guys this weekend. Want my prediction for the day? Golden State, I think, takes them out. Boston starts strong. Curry makes amends for last week, last game. He scores about 30, ends up with the MVP, and I don't think they're going back to Frisco, folks. I think Golden State by 6 tonight. I think it all ends tonight. All right, y'all take care. We'll catch y'all down the line.